The problem that Pimple is designed to solve has to do with header files. Having a .h file and a .cpp file and having the include directive as a preprocessor command enables you to separate your implementation, the actual code for a function, from the definition, just saying this function exists, here's the parameters it takes, here's what it returns. Your header file is essentially metadata about your class. It comes from a time before we talked about metadata, and so it has some drawbacks. Many developers put some of their actual implementation into their header files, and because it's plain text, it's difficult for the compiler to reason about the contents of that header file and about the importance or significance of changes to that header file. When you have a project with dozens, hundreds, thousands of files, you can imagine that building that project starts to take longer and longer. C++ developers will have heard Microsoft tell you with every release of Visual Studio how much quicker the compiler is, or the linker is, or build times in general are compared to the version before. I've worked on projects that take 2 or 3 hours to build the entire solution, and I know people who have 24-hour build times. Imagine in a project like that maybe half your files include particular header. And not just in one project, maybe you have a utility whose header is included across a whole pile of different projects. And they actually execute the code through a DLL or through COM or something like that. Now imagine that I make a little change in that header file. Suddenly half the project has to build to react to the fact that I've changed this header file. Maybe I need to take an hour now to build that project, or maybe 12 hours, or even something worse. Say the header has got 6 classes in it. Some of the files that include it use all 6, but most of them just use one of the 6. And all I changed in the header file was just one of the classes, while everybody has to recompile. It's possible in theory that some compilers would be smart enough to say, wow, I see you're including this file, but you only use class A and class A didn't change, but we can't count on that. So developers get these insulative habits, only put one class in each file. That way, if I just change the one class, the other 5 files are unchanged and maybe we'll have a few less compiles. But it doesn't completely take you away from this problem. Let's say I have several private member variables inside the class in my header file and I change one of them. Because it's private, there's no way that the code that included this header could be affected by my making this change, assuming it's not a friend, and the compiler would know that because if it's a friend, it's in the header file that it's a friend. Nonetheless, the way C++ works, the whole thing will rebuild. You changed the header. There's no, yeah, but it was in a private member, so it doesn't matter. And in some circumstances, this is a major block to productivity. Either people have to go do something else for a couple hours while their projects build, or worse, they avoid building for days at a time until it's okay to take that personal productivity hit while your project builds. That's not a sensible way to live your life. So the Pimple idiom is a way to get around this problem.